All right, I just had a fucking long day at work. Holy shit. Okay, so here's a talk about Bitcoin and the balance of power. And this is a talk about government a little bit, but let me start by saying Bitcoin does not replace government. And contrary to my anarchian friends, not all government is bad. I'm sure you can argue with me in the troll box below if you disagree with me. But most of it is, and today it's mainly just bureaucracy. We don't even really have government. But today is a talk about the freedom to transact. And what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin was the freedom to transact. Bitcoin BTC was, for a while, a demonstration that people could transact without a middleman. And this was a threat to the powers that be. The reason why is because if an everyday person can transact freely, essentially he could free his mind and realize that money is really just an idea, and so is authority. Authority is really just a concept, and that a person who agrees that there are barriers there, all of a sudden there are barriers there. But a person who does not agree that barriers are there, is very, very difficult to make him go along with what it is that you would like to do. And so if you're trying to make an individual act against his best interests or against his own natural interests, then of course he's not going to instinctively go along with you unless you use force to do so. Hence the word fiat, which means money decree by force. And that's okay. It's reasonably workable still. But anyway, here's the problem. Whenever there's, let's say, an authority and the non-authority sort of dichotomy, that's where you have one thing on the one side and the other thing on the other side. They actually can be one and the same, but they can also oppose each other quite readily, especially when the intentions of the authority become altered from the original intentions and motivations of when the authority was created. So for example, let's say you're an authority in modern day education, and back in or you're starting up some club or government entity, and you want to help people with education, and you really want to, what does that mean? Okay, that means giving people knowledge that they can think with and apply it to better their own life, not necessarily to better you, the authority. That would be an individualism model. Then what happened was education became perverted over about a 200-year time, and eventually there was no more education. There was no body of knowledge, no assembled body of knowledge that is practical, other than the schools that are in existence today, that purely are there to indoctrinate you to move along with the existing system. That's to put it nicely. It's actually to prevent you from thinking that you might be free, or to prevent you from considering that there are other realities. That's the main role of government today, is to prevent the individual from acting, to prevent the individual from thinking, and to prevent the individual from considering that there are possible, there's other ways to do things that are faster, better, more efficient, right? One of the funny things about government is, like, you come into like some government entity and you want to and you look at how they have some inefficiency in the DMV, and you go, well, this is dumb. This could be changed and improved like pretty quickly. Any entrepreneur knows they would never run their business that way. Because if they did, they would go broke. So the incentive of the DMV will if you moved in there as an employee and tried to change anything, you would be instantly removed and probably punished. Why? Because the DMV doesn't operate on an incentive system of rewarding efficiency. It operates on the opposite of that. So to an entrepreneur or an individual, you go, why? That's just going to result in death, shrinkage, unhappiness, bankruptcy. Why would I have the opposite motivation that nature gives me, right? And the government creates these entities that actually do have this. The reason why is because they're backwards. So, but government doesn't necessarily have to be backwards, but a small government is always better in many ways. But the main purpose of it today, as it exists, is to prevent the individual from considering possibilities, to prevent you from imagining a different world. Despite this, we still have individuals like the most famous entrepreneurs in the world who can somehow wrap their minds around this. Somehow they drop out of school at a young age and just don't have the indoctrination of how the world is supposed to be. And their mind is free, which is very disappointing to those who would like to restrict you and keep you doing things that's for not in your own best interest, but in the best interests of another. Okay, so what is really Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? And I think that's the question, obviously, that we're all asking. There's many answers to that. And here is a long thought out answer to the question, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin, in its purest sense, is the freedom to transact. It is the freedom. Now, transaction is basically exchange, okay? So any transaction is the concept of exchange. It is the idea that an idea can be free and an idea can be transmitted. And so Bitcoin is actually a symbol for the free mind. That's how I would define it in a higher sense, but not to the guy on the street. To a regular person, I would say that Bitcoin Bitcoin Cash anyways, that's the one that I use. Bitcoin Cash is the Bitcoin that we use for everyday exchanges. So that's how I'd explain that to the guy on the street. But what it actually is, spiritually, is freedom to think and send an idea across a space to another person and get it received in a way that's beneficial for both people. Basically mimics the communication. So it's a very refined communication, but we haven't really, taken it to that level yet. But in order to have that freedom, man has to be kind of worthy of that freedom. So Bitcoin will offer us the freedoms that we're worthy of. And depending on our level of understanding, so for example, if people want to use it to harm others, well, that's a very basal way of using it, and that would be kind of a waste. But if we wanted to use it to promote art, things that are generally agreed upon, things that are a better way, not to fight against the system that's already in existence. I don't think we need to be fighting against governments at all, but offering them ways of doing things that, or ignoring the way that they do things when they are inefficient. But always, I do recommend you always try to work within the framework of the existing system the way it is. Don't put yourself in jeopardy, and don't violate the laws of the land. So it's not permission to go and do things that break the law. Not by any means. But the most important aspect of what is Bitcoin is the freedom to think and the freedom to transact. It's a blank canvas is what it is, okay? So, yeah. And I think that the canvas will continue to change as time moves on if we get creative. But for now, I think our next step up is to obtain freedom to communicate through transactions. Not to hide them, or not to hide them from government, or to violate laws, or please Satoshi, or to whatever. But just to get creative as individuals and to improve the quality of life for the people that we run into on a daily basis, to within the framework of the game that you're already playing. And unfortunately, that is a threat to the powers that be, but it really doesn't have to be at all. And it's really just a means to a better game. Sorry I'm going a bit long here, but feel free to troll box me. Give me a little troll down below. Let me know how you're doing. Thank you. Bye.